Which is easier to teach? Is it easier to teach how to survive or easier to teach how to kill?
And I guarantee that the training we're providing here is far better than what the Russians are providing their people.
In my civilian life, I just graduated from the medical school. I am a doctor. That is why I decided that it is time to join the army.
This is an existential war for Ukraine, and that Russia seeks to remove Ukraine's statehood. So
what I don't want them to do is to get too excited and, injure the people.
Hello, I'm Jenny Klochko and you're watching my podcast. Today I'm on the military grounds, on the military base, and today we're going to meet British personnel, British instructors and Ukrainian servicemen who came to the UK to get trained how to be effective on the battlefield and how not to get killed. We're going to meet different officers, different servicemen. Let's see what they prepared for us to see and what they're going to tell us. We just now witnessed how the instructors explained to Ukrainian servicemen and women how to put tourniquet and how to save the limbs, because many of service soldiers in Ukraine losing their limbs because of some mistakes with tourniquet and how they treating wounds. So right now we're moving to the different location where it's going to be pretending destroy the vehicle and what's the plan of action. Let's have a look what's going to happen there. We were told there's going to be some graphic images, so we'll see. So we were given earplugs because there's going to be some loud explosions happening, and I see already the armed vehicle. There's something happening. It's a new scenario. So let's see how they're going to prepare Ukrainian servicemen for the actual battle, or what is happening on the battlefield.
Just to symbolise sort of like a vehicle getting an ID strike.
But when they're learning to carry a stretcher.
So what is easier to teach? Is it easier to teach how to survive or easier to teach how to kill?
Both are equally difficult or easy. Some people are more natural students, other people their previous experience means that it's very hard for them to understand, but ultimately everyone can be taught both.
But it's a different mentality, because when I speak to servicemen, they always say it's like destroying the enemy, killing the enemy. So it's different, should be shifting your head, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Before actually putting your weapon or targeting something. So is this sort of some psychological tricks or sort of like program or step by step where you're preparing people for being ready and known to panic on the battlefield?
So we run an inoculation serial here, an inoculation lane, where we try and get them used to the kind of feelings and thoughts they would have in combat. However, it's almost impossible to fully prepare someone psychologically for combat, and that's something they'll probably learn on their very first day in combat and know it from then on.
So this scenario which is happening here, exploding and attacking the vehicle, is this sort of typical, and how it's more sort of physical damage or psychological for the...
So what's this scenario over here, you've got a vehicle that's been damaged, I think, by a mine. Mines are a really high threat in Ukraine. There's thousands and thousands of mines have been laid, both anti-tank and anti-personnel. So in this scenario, the vehicle has been immobilised by a mine and people inside have been wounded. That's a very typical type of injury that you're going to get in Ukraine. So what we want to do is make sure that they can take a casualty out of the vehicle without injuring themselves more. So, for example, if they've got a blast wound or a fragmentation wound and they drag them out of the vehicle, that could make the injury worse. So what we try and do is teach them some principles of making sure that certain parts of the body are immobilised and make sure that they're supported and they're carefully carried out. All of that is skills that need teaching. And as you can see there, they've successfully extracted that casualty.
It is. Probably it's a bit easier for me because I am kind of acquainted with the language, so I'm acquainted with the culture, and that part clearly makes it easier for me. And speaking of the training, I like it. Every single bit is useful because there are many things to learn, and useful, handy. I hope I will not need some parts of it, but I'd rather be prepared.
and whilst being under quite a degree of stress. So you might be able to see as we go through this, you might be able to see some of the obstacles, etc. Normally we fill the sumps with water and that sort of thing, make it a bit more unpleasant and challenging. But the aim is to try and make it as tough as possible so that they're as best prepared as possible.
So it's sort of pretending the positions of the enemy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so sort of different field defences, a different sort of barbed wire and things they might have to scramble and climb across. So, but can they do it when they're tired?
So right now we are at the training ground where's the enemy position. So Ukrainians learning how to act with the enemy's positions. They do different things, explosions, and there's some smoke, the green smoke, which is not very pleasantly smells. So, and there's a lot of going on. Who is playing the bad Russians?
We have our own soldiers representing the enemy in some scenarios, but it's blank ammunition, so it's okay in this.
Do you make them sort of angry or sort of prepare, and because you have to be like in real life situation? You take it seriously. I mean, what I mean, before going to Ukraine as a journalist, I was going through HEFAT course. So it's like 5 days thing. And the final, I think the 4th day when we were on the battlefield, and there were people who were playing this terrorist or enemy. So we had to go through the checkpoints, and and then we were taken in captivity, and then you were sort of killed and all of that. And I took it serious, the whole training, because I wanted this to be useful. At the same time, as a civilian, I was very shocked because those people in balaclavas, they were so angry and they were so aggressive, and they were, it was like real life situation. You had to think over. So do you do anything kind of for yesterday's civilians who come in here for training to feel their reality, how it can be if they...
I mean, there's a limit of what we can do to simulate reality. When we have a live enemy in these scenarios, what we don't do is try and get the recruits too angry, because there's a lot of passion, involved in the Ukrainian recruits. They want to do well. They also want to defeat the enemy. So what I don't want them to do is to get too excited and, injure the people playing enemy, who, after all, are on our side. So, I have to temper expectations a little bit.
But how enemy, in quotes, pretend enemy, how serious they take it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But I'm really impressed for the Ukrainians, how seriously they take the training. Being here in the UK, a long way from the front line, it might be quite easy to say, well, I don't need to put too much effort in. But, you can see there, these guys put so much effort in, and they're so keen to learn. Every moment counts to get them better soldiers.
Have you been conscripted?
We signed the contract.
Have you had any previous military experience?
No military experience.
How did you decide to join the army? The wave of patriotism had passed. How has it happened with you? Have you decided together to join? As a mother, I can't imagine taking my daughter to join the war.
We took our time to think about it. What is the point of sitting and waiting? The guys on the front line need our help. My daughter has been born when the war started. I wanted to have a bit of time with her, with my family. My father and I are always together, all our lives. We worked together at the railway, always together. Now our time has come to join army and defend our country.
I am training here. It's a basic military training for those who decided to join the armed forces. In my civilian life, I just graduated from the medical school. I am a doctor. That is why I decided that it is time to join the army and be useful. So that's why I made decision to join the armed forces. I think now I have to give my time to those who is fighting for our country. It is probably the most important decision in my life. That's why I am here.
You are so young. Was it difficult to make the decision?
Not really. I just made the decision. And then it's easy after that. I have done everything I could in my civilian life to help my country. I decided it was not enough, especially with my knowledge as a medic.
Fair enough. But on the other hand, we all Ukrainians have lost already someone in this war, and such decisions to make harder.
It seems so. At the same time, you understand the price of the freedom, and it's very high and very painful. This decision comes to you. Everybody makes own choice based on their reasons. It is not only the losses, but also the wish our children, sisters, brothers, and your country to be free.
Andrei, I was just told that you are English language teacher.
Well, used to be.
Now you brave soldier with a gun.
Yep.
So how it's happened? Where happened the transition? Have you been conscripted or you...
I'm a volunteer, and it wasn't a fast decision. It wasn't an easy decision. It took me some preparation, took me some thinking. So here I am.
How long did you think about it before you actually joined armed forces?
Well, for a few months, for sure, maybe since February or March, and I joined the forces at the end of June.
Is there a difference between how men and women act during training?
No, not really. I think there are much bigger differences between, different ages and different fitness levels and different outlooks and where people are from. That's probably greater difference than difference between men and women.
What is the most challenging for you here when they show something and teach you?
For me, is not easy, because I am not that young. Everything else is okay.
How old are you?
I am 50. Physical activity, it is hard for father. I am fine. I think our instructors are great ream. Very good at teaching. They don't lose anybody. Everything is working perfectly. Everything organized the way that you are busy every minute. You don't waste the time. Everything moves quickly, and you have to get everything fast to survive to help the other and be naturally fast. There will be situation in the future where I will need to help my mates. They teach us here these essential skills. They are very good.
What do you find the most difficult here during this training? It's probably the easiest part is the language.
The short breaks.
You need longer breaks.
Oh, just a wee bit.
How do you like aperitif here?
It's nice. It's nice. Especially when there is a break.
Do you see any difference between men and women, or maybe different ages, how they approach themselves during training?
I think you understand that there are sort of physical differences. Naturally, some people are younger, older, fitter, less fit. But so far, all I've seen is that people have approached us with a really good mindset, and that trumps a lot of things.
What did you notice that Ukrainian servicemen and women struggling the most, or goes something very easy?
That's a very good question. I think they've taken to the course very well, and I think we had a lot of people here who were from sort of physical backgrounds, miners, construction workers, hands-on. So, the physical side of things, digging positions, being sort of hardy in the field, people have taken to well. Some things, very specific military things like loading a weapon or doing specific medical procedures, battlefield med stuff, people find difficult at first, but so far I think everyone's taking to it very well.
We were just watching the trainings, and I noticed this one of the Ukrainian service, this woman, I thought she's just like, it was too much for her, and she was sitting. How do you deal with that?
So we are completely cognizant and aware of the fact that this is new to a lot of them in terms of any military exposure or experience whatsoever. So we understand that it can be quite stressful and rigorous on new people, but we also have a duty of care whilst they're here with us as well. It's always forward in our mind to support their welfare as well.
Was there any case when somebody was so unfit and you would just rather, it's different when a person is conscripted for the army, so there's no ways giving up. But if someone is terribly unfit, Because you see in Ukraine, with one of the narratives, especially among of those people who is not prepared for the war, not willingly joining, they say, oh, I wasn't made for the war, I wasn't born for the war.
Will always be a difficult question and issue with conscription, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that this is an existential war for Ukraine and that Russia seeks to remove Ukraine's statehood. So I think that would be first and foremost in most people's mind, that they have to do something to defend their country from this Russian barbarism. And then the second point on fitness, I've not seen, these individuals are all volunteers, I've not seen anyone where they've been so ill-prepared or unprepared that we couldn't mould them into a more effective soldier throughout the length of the course.
I've seen during, for example, Special Forces training in Ukraine, they have like this square with a bell, and when someone getting too much, and they just go in there and ringing the bell. So I'm symbolizing as I'm giving up. Do you have something similar here, or there is no such option as, I'm not able to carry on? How do you deal with those who are struggling?
So no one is allowed to give up. The reason for that is that we need to train soldiers for Ukraine, and if we allow people to just give up and step away, then that it impacts that. So what we try and do is what we say is train in. So people that are struggling, we put more time into them and bring them up to the standard. So if they're not so good at shooting, they can practice more until they pass the same test as everybody else. And that really helps to bring the team together. If we allow people to, be better and worse, it breaks the team up. So for me, it's all about building the team and having a standard, an achievable standard, and making sure everybody gets to that standard.
We are standing here, and on the right-hand side there's a big muddy puddle. We were told today that part of the exercises is to crawl in this mud. Have you tried it?
We have not done it yet, but it's nothing to worry about. It's not a problem.
I'm asking because you were a civilian no long time ago. I'm a civilian, and I'm very interested in the moment when the shift of the mentality from the civilian into military happening, and it's become very easy for the military.
It's not our first day. We had some training, and now we are gradually getting used to it. All good. Nothing to worry about.
During the training, we discussed it with the instructors. There were no option I quit, because I wasn't born for the war, explosions and etc. And I want to go home. I'm sure you have your own challenging moments, possibly missing family. So when you have your challenges, how do you negotiate with yourself?
First of all, you can get in touch with your family, but then you remember why you are here, what country you want to live in the future, and the reason you made your decision, which reflects with your inner feelings. Then all the doubts are gone, and you just do what you have to.
But it's probably more difficult for you because you're dealing with civilians, and they go into the real battlefield and to the real war. So it's totally different to what you get to. Have you been in the war yourself?
No, I have not.
So it's totally different to what you got used to. I suspect there's some skepticism. You can't become a soldier for a very short period of time, isn't it?
The course is structured over 5 weeks. It is pretty efficient and effective at getting them from a common standard when they arrive to a standard that I would say is probably higher than the Russians might train some of their soldiers. The way it's organised, the subject matter experts we have that deliver it, I think it does give them an easily recognisable advantage when they return back to Ukraine to bravely defend their country.
Do you see them as returning as military people, or they still sort of like in this transition between being civilian and becoming military?
You do see them transform essentially very fast over the course. When we meet them on the first day they arrive here to how they look 5 weeks later, they're unrecognisable. Far more soldier-like and professional in the way they carry themselves and conduct their actions that we teach them.
The weather, how important is the landscape and those conditions that people have to deal with in Ukraine, especially when it's starting from October till probably March, April, when it's a lot of mud and a lot of rain and all of that. Do you have any special accent to this, or you work on it?
So I said earlier that one of the parts we teach them is personal administration, so how they can live and work in really difficult environments, in the mud, in the rain, etc. I think giving them that basic knowledge is really important to keeping them motivated and performing when they get out to Ukraine in the rain and in the cold. You see footage of Russian soldiers in trenches who clearly have not been taught this, and you can see they're suffering from it. And the less someone is administratively prepared to live in the combat zone, the worse they'll be as a soldier. It's a really important thing. It's not glamorous, but it's really, really important.
You are playing the wounded on the battlefield. Is it scary for you?
No.
Are they gentle enough with you?
Yeah.
Is there sort of any instruction going on, for you not to do something or for them not to do something? I'm just trying to understand how this scenario is playing.
I don't know.
You don't mind to help with this training and all
Yeah,
this?
I like to help.
When I was going through HEFAT courses for the journalists going into dangerous places, and a surprise for me was personally when I saw the open wounds with the blood, the pulsation of the blood. So as soon as we had this kind of scenario, I was the one who was jumping and running away. I mean, it's not something I would expect from myself. I always sort of thought different about myself in such situations. Were they, if they're struggling with this kind of part of the training or part of the syllabus, what steps do you do for them to be familiar, calm, and be productive?
So I think, no one knows how they're going to react to that sort of thing. Even people in the military, until you've been in contact or been to war or something, no one knows how they'll react to that. What we try and do here within the limitations we have on time is that we put people in those situations as many times as possible. So repetition, really acts in breaking down those barriers and making people act in a way that hopefully, if and when it happens for real, people work on instinct.
How about those people who had lost their limbs and they helping to train, because we talked to one of the guys who clearly was injured, seriously lost his hand, and he had some sort of, I think it's done, isn't it? Sort of, like with the blood. How do you find those people? Are they former soldiers, or how is happening to involve them into this training?
Invaluable, I think. In my personal training so far, the training at Sandhurst and infantry training, we use people with prosthetics and amputated limbs as well. And I remember the first time that I sort of came across someone like that in that situation. It is far more visceral and kind of real than you're used to with someone, the spurt of blood on their arm or something. So I think it's absolutely invaluable to the training.
Did you have some expectations, and then after arriving here, you were surprised?
There were many things that surprised me. As I never had any military experience, many things surprised me. I was amazed how the instructors treat us. They make sure we are properly dressed, having decent shoes, great food. I am very impressed.
General Hodges during our interview said that Ukraine have to create the environment where men and women will be sure they are going to be properly trained and they will be taken care of. What you are saying reminded me of his words. How close are you to that point where you feel comfortable and confident?
Absolutely. I am feeling more motivated. When I was given all the necessary equipment and everything, I need to be ready. My motivation is growing. Of course, it would be different if there were only promised and no actions after it. Here I am, feeling very motivated.
Is it your first time in the UK? What has surprised you here?
Possibly some rules. The main pleasant surprise was how the Brits are treating us. They are doing their best to help us. Since we arrived, they are taking care of us unbelievably well. It applies to everything and training, some everyday errands. If we have some assignments, they are always there for us to support. It is very impressive.
You were in Ukraine. Could you tell more about your experience being in Ukraine, and when was it?
So I was in Ukraine before the sort of Russian invasion. But I was there on Operation Orbital, which was essentially the same objective as here, so training Ukrainian soldiers in basic skills. The difference being that we were training soldiers that were already soldiers and already in the army. So I worked with 53 Brigade in Dnipro. So because they were already battle-experienced soldiers, it was more of an exchange of ideas than us delivering training, if that makes sense. So that's the big difference. But in terms of the personalities, the sense of humour, the teamwork, it feels very similar.
Do you follow Ukrainian news, or you just rather concentrate on your work? You know, because it's, in a way, your participation, you preparing the soldiers, and if there's the number of losses or losing some towns or villages, it affects emotionally, so it's better to keep your mental health intact.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you chat to these people are people at the end of the day. They're all human, and you know that a lot of them are really great people, and you chat to them, you know where they've come from. So yeah, when you hear that a village or a town is being fought over, it's difficult. But you try and keep your emotions under wraps when you're being professional.
Is it difficult for you? You're quite young. You know, it's like with people with age, and they sort of like hardened, and I don't know, they know your way, but you know, you're young, passionate, you're sort of enthusiastic. It's difficult to be passionate at one side and keep everything under the wraps.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's a difficult differentiation to strike, but I think, like I say, it's any difficulties we have pale into insignificance. So I think that keeps a real perspective all the time.
Do you follow the news, what's happening in Ukraine?
Yes, I do.
So is there your, can I say, favorite moments, or the moments you go into deep, or sort of you learning more, or maybe you happy about this, for example, I mean?
I think the way Ukraine's conducted the war and the steadfast support they have from their allies, from NATO, the financial, material and economic support and military support from around the world is keeping Ukraine in this fight, and they're still fighting hard and fighting very bravely to defend their country from this abhorrent invasion.
Are you looking forward to go back home? It's going to be different. It's not like returning from holidays.
We know where we are going to be. We don't think it's going to be tough. We think about our families and the families of our countrymen. It's tough for everybody, but we have to help and kick off the enemy from our country, return ours, and have the better life we ever had. So much better.
Is there some parts of it you find challenging? Maybe some emotional aspect of that, because there are lots of videos on social media when there's either British soldiers, or there was, I think, one of the videos I came across, there was Spanish, and when they're saying goodbye to those who trained, and basically the question, are they going to be alive? Are we going to see them again? Are they going to be good? And have they learned everything we wanted them to learn?
Yeah, I think very much, there's an attempt here to keep people at an arm's length so that we don't become too attached to them and them to us in, sadly a sort of ruthless but necessary way, because thousands and thousands of people are training through this system. However, when they leave, it is sad, and it's a very sobering thing that they'll go back to the front line. However, I think any challenges or anything that we face, we're just so aware all the time that our challenge is nothing compared to these people and the challenges that they're facing.
Do you think about the victory? Victory in this
victory?
war? Yeah.
I do.
How do you imagine it?
Relieving.
Is there something you would like to tell the people who haven't joined armed forces in Ukraine yet? Would it be sort of any message would you like for them to get?
If they haven't made the decision yet, I wish them to make the decision sooner and get properly prepared before they join the forces to make the transition easier.
What's the main thing to be prepared?
Well, some mental conditioning, coming to inner peace with this decision, and also some physical conditioning of the CrossFit type.
Thank you for watching. Today you had an opportunity to see what does it mean in Operation Interflex. You've heard the British instructors, the Ukrainian servicemen and women, and I'm very interested to hear what you think. Please let me know below in the comments. I'm Jenny Klochko. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget, like, share, subscribe.